As Dr. Ru says, you are on the air. Hi, Brian Colburn. How are you? Tell us what you think about the My Online Cafe, and then take a couple of seconds or a minute about yourself and your podcast.
First off, if you're just hearing this, you need to click over to the video because what a beautiful image and venue Paul has created here on the Skylar Network. It is relaxing and calming, which is a great benefit to having a community here. You can really set the tone or the mood with the image and how you lay out your own Skylarverse. And who wouldn't want to come hang out on the beach in a cabana or sitting in the auditorium listening to great speakers or hanging out by the pool? You need to check this out if you're not listening or logged in.
Perfect. And I'll tag you on a couple of networks. I'll even tag you on Alignable too. What the heck? And LinkedIn, I think I could tag you. But some of them, we might not be connected on all of the networks. And take a minute and tell us about what's a good lead or referral for you.
Yeah, well, first of all, my name is Brian Colburn. I'm the owner operator of Sitch Radio. My personal podcast project right now is called Feed Drops, where I rate and review podcasts across 10 categories, helping you find that next bingeable podcast. In addition to my own passion project, I run a team of 3 individuals. We are here to help you tell your story via podcasting. We will do all the work you don't know how to do or don't want to do to get your story or your brand message told over this great medium called podcasting.
Perfect. Do you have any last thoughts before we wrap up?
If you don't consume podcasts, check it out. There are a lot of great, passionate creators creating wonderful content across every category. So just give it a try, number one. Number two, if you find a show you like and you've listened to a few episodes, whatever player you're listening on, go to their channel and leave them a rating and review and say a few kind words. It helps the creator of the content that you just consumed, most likely for free. So support your local podcaster.
I do have a last thought actually too, Brian. You said that you heard of Toastmasters a long time ago, or was that within the last few months? And tell us about that.
You know, Honestly, it was about 10 years ago when somebody told me about Toastmasters, and I went, wow, I need to join. And he's like, come to my group. But they met at 6 a.m., about 30 minutes south of me, and that wasn't going to happen. So I want to give props to Paul for working on standing up a chapter of Toastmasters that's vetted, certified, blessed, and approved by the Toastmasters organization to meet right here in this beautiful beach setting on the Skylar Network in the OMG Biz Cafe. So if you want to improve your public speaking, number one, number two, maybe kind of shy and worried about presenting in front of people, what a great venue to come test your chops, practice, learn. It's just going to be a great experience. I was one that always sat back of the classroom, did not like speaking in front of people, and that's changed, but it took time, energy, and effort because I wanted to make that change. I want to improve upon my speaking, so I'm all in for Paul's Toastmaster group right here on the Skylar Network.
Thanks, Brian, for that little tidbit. We are up to about 5 or 6 committed members. We need about 14. We even have somebody volunteering to be a mentor and a coach that's part of an existing Toastmasters club, as well as myself as part of an existing in-person Toastmasters club. And one of those 2 clubs will be our club sponsor. The club sponsor actually gets a pretty ribbon. It's a really tall ribbon that will go on their banner in their in-person club for sponsoring a club. There's all kind of recognition to get in Toastmasters, and it really goes hand in hand for business people, business leaders, or advancing people's careers. If you want to be a guest, by the way, for our Monday 5:30 Eastern time, right here in this theater format, You just have to remember as a guest to go to Oscar Mary George or omgtalk.com, and you can come right in. Just pick the tab on my link tree for the Toastmaster meeting at 5:30 Eastern time. And if you want to be a speaker, I always invite anybody as a guest as a perk who's a business leader to talk for 4 to 6 minutes as an icebreaker speech so they could try before they buy. And it's really not a whole lot of arm and a leg to be involved, but there's a lot of benefit too. So, and instead of those pesky 30-second intros, you can take 4 to 6 minutes, which is just the least amount of time in a prepared speech through Toastmasters. Usually they're 5 to 7 minutes. So 4 to 6 minutes is a nice stepping stone. If you're not used to speaking, but you're in business and you want to get your feet wet more, we have something called Table Topics, which is a 1 minute minimum speech. Look at that. Brian is raising his hand. Do you have something to add to that?
I want to add, producing podcasts like we do, I sometimes work with hosts that can benefit from services I don't provide. For example, doing a live show or doing an interview style podcast, I will often refer that host seek some training from a local improv group or find a local improv group to them. Because understanding the concept of yes and being able to carry a conversation is what interviewing or live shows are all about. In addition to that, I had a host that did solo shows for the most part, and I sent them to a great storytelling coach that I work with. And they participated in one of the storyteller coaches programs. And the content that they were producing was night and day after having worked with this coach. In addition to that, I recommend a lot of books to podcasters. And the majority of them aren't on podcasting. They're on storytelling, public speaking, personal development, things of that nature. But I really want to emphasize the fact that reading a book about being a better storyteller puts knowledge in your head. You have to get up and tell story to become a better storyteller. And
I lost Brian for a second. I lost his audio, but maybe he could still hear me.
that was horrible. I'm going to back up a little bit. You can edit this. Finding groups like the Moth, or finding groups, any storytelling group, open mic nights, poetry slams. Get up, get in front of the people, and tell a story. I actually maintain a database. When I think of a story from my past, I log it in this database, and I find time every week to work on developing these stories. So it's not a riff off the top of my head. It's a more prepared, organized, embedding a story arc to it. And these stories are rehearsed and practiced. And one day I hope to stand on a Moth stage and present at the Moth. However, in the meantime, I use this for the first Toastmasters meeting I ever attended here in the Skylar Network. That was one of my prepared, it was my origin story, but I took time to craft that story and write into it a compelling story arc. And I hope it was. I got some good feedback. I got a lot of great constructive criticism that I logged, and those are things I now work on when I'm speaking publicly or presenting or podcasting even. So you can only learn so much from a book. Get up and speak is the point of that rant.
Really good point. I don't know if you've been to a lot of Moth events before, but I do know some Toastmasters in Key West area that did go to a lot of Moth storytelling chapters. And I'm curious, when you're doing storytelling or for your podcast, do you try to grab different like details, like when you're writing a book and try to paint a picture while you're giving your story? Is that one of the things that you try to key in on?
Absolutely. Setting the scene is such a powerful component of storytelling. It's easy for me to stand up and say, one time in the Marine Corps, I was on a patrol and a guy fell down a hill. But if I start that off with, We were walking through this lush green forest with a stream beneath us, just rambling and birds chirping because we were walking quietly. You start to envision that location, that scene in your mind, and it pulls you in to me now telling you about the Marine who lost his balance, fell down a hill, broke a tree with his head. But setting the scene is such a great place. And even if it, I was sitting on a park bench, eating my lunch, watching the birds, people will envision that park and that bench and a view, and they'll start to insert their own details if you're not explained, but you're pulling them into the story.
I'm really glad that you got a chance to give us the first 30 seconds of what you thought about our theater online. Where else can I build a theater in 1 minute and not have to have any construction and no staff? And it's like an AI experience building a theater.
And And isn't it a much more aesthetically pleasing? Speaking about setting the scene, we're setting the scene, the mood, the tone, because you have this capability to upload your own image and lay out your room and break out rooms as you see fit. It's gorgeous.